Got a boatload of Warriors trade rumors to discuss on today's show, but I could not start that without telling you guys that the 2015 Finals MVP, Andre Iguodala, is getting his jersey retired on February 23rd. The all-defensive mastermind. Some could argue the glue that started the Warriors dynasty when he came to the Bay Area. Show Andre Iguodala some love by typing some nines down in the comments section and show me that with the aliens pointing the death beam at Earth, you got Iguodala. All right, so we got some Warriors trade rumors to discuss because it feels like their plans ahead of February 6th deadline have been revealed. Mike Dunleavy, Joe Lacob, Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, Draymond Green. The Warriors' brain trust kind of has a good idea as to what they're going to do ahead of the deadline. And that's basically wait and see, right? Because Dunleavy's quote from a while back was impatience versus undisciplined. And Steph and Draymond and Kerr, they're all talking about preserving the future and not mortgaging future assets to acquire a win-now piece today that might not necessarily put Golden State in a position to win a championship in the 24-25 season. So, with that being said, what could their trade plans be ahead next week? Well, let's start with who could they trade for. And I know I'm giving a little bit of a spoiler alert with his head right there. Nikola Vucevic is the guy that is at the forefront of Warriors trade talks at this point. And we've talked about Vucevic on this show and how he could provide a new offensive element to this Warriors team with his stretch big ability, with his underrated facilitating from the 5 spot, with his glass cleaning prowess. Like, he is an elite fit on this Warriors team, in my opinion, because it's just an element that they have not seen yet. And it's a player who they're kind of seeing now with Quentin Post. We'll talk about him in just a second. But Vucevic is an absolute exclaimed version, like a total blown up version, a full product version of Quentin Post, because he's putting up 20 and 10 nightly. Keep in mind, he does have a $20 million contract this season, so it would not be too difficult for Golden State to come up and meet that number. And for a 7-foot player who's shooting 40% from three-point range this season, that's a player I want on the Golden State Warriors. But is it realistic for Golden State to trade for him? The reports coming out from Chicago are that the Bulls want a first-round pick for Nikola Vucevic. In my opinion, I think that is too much for a player who is 34. He does have another year left on his contract, but the Warriors specifically, their first-round draft capital could be very valuable when you think about down the line to 2027, 2028, 2029, when Stephen Curry might not be on this team anymore, when Draymond might not be on this team anymore, when Steve Kerr might be retired. There's a real possibility that those picks could be high lottery picks, and I would not give away a first-round pick down the line for Nikola Vucevic. Now, Golden State's trade position currently is that they're only offering second-round picks to Chicago, and they're not really budging on that. It's kind of a stalemate between the two sides right now, and the deal breaker is the draft assets. There isn't a player that Golden State would give up to Chicago that would necessarily make or break this deal, unless we're talking about like Jonathan Kuminga, or who knows, maybe Moses Moody, and Golden State doesn't want to part with him. However, the Golden State and Chicago seem to be battling over draft picks right now, and according to Warriors insider Anthony Slater, the price from Chicago is too steep for the Warriors to go and meet them at. So that's unfortunate, because I think Vooch could be a big-time addition to this Warriors team and could make this product on the floor more fruitful and just overall more entertaining, as Golden State is under 500 right now. They have 5 losses of 30-plus this year. They can't come back because they don't have any help offensively aside from Steph. So I would really like to trade for Vucevic, but at the right price. Let me know down in the comments if you agree. Should the Warriors make a trade for Vooch? Type T for trade, type P for pass. This will be the pinned comment on today's video. So if YouTube throws you an ad break right here, don't sweat it. Just scroll down to the comments section and answer today's pinned comment. I would make the deal for Nikola Vucevic if no first-round pick was included. And I think I've made that pretty clear. I feel as though that the Golden State, they cannot part with their first-round picks as of right now. I think I felt differently a couple of weeks ago when I still thought that there was a championship pursuit for Golden State if they added a difference maker. But at this point, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. However, are there other trade targets that Golden State could go after right now? Couple names to discuss. Walker Kessler, the young center up in Utah. He's an elite shot blocker and an elite rebounder in just, I believe, year 3 of his career. And he's a guy that could transform this Warriors defense on the interior. Trace Jackson Davis, rim protector is fine. Kevon Looney, not really getting much burn anymore. And we know Quentin Post is deficient on defense. Walker Kessler would be a nice addition, but I think that Utah and Danny Ainge would drive up a steep price for the big man. Also, Colin Sexton would potentially be looped in to a Walker Kessler deal. That's kind of the package that Utah is shopping right now to get some draft capital from certain teams. And maybe I would give up a first-round pick for the duo of Sexton and Kessler, but I would still feel a little bit hesitant to do so. Sexton does shoot 40% from three-point range. He's been very solid for the Utah Jazz in his career there to this point. I think he'd be a great addition for Golden State at the shooting guard, where they're really kind of confused and contradictory of what they want in that position right now. It doesn't seem like Dennis Schroeder is working as a 2. Doesn't seem like Buddy Hield is startable. And Gary Payton II, I mean, he's going to be playing the power forward position, less of the shooting guard, even though he's only 6'4". What about another big man, though, to shore up that front court and not make Gary Payton play the 4? Miles Turner. I know this has been a guy we've discussed on the channel before, but I don't think it's all that likely because Indiana is pursuing an NBA championship right now. They're in playoff contention in the Eastern Conference. They were just in the Eastern Conference Finals last year in 2024. Turner's great. He's coming up on a free agency decision this summer, and Indiana's going to have to decide whether or not they want to pay him. But as far as this current season goes, I think that they would want to keep him in town to pursue that ring. Also, Cam Johnson. I know. We've talked about him a million times here at Warriors Today. But I just love Cam Johnson, man. I think he's an elite player, and he would be the best fit that Golden State could go out there and trade for right now. 6'8", super long wingspan, versatile defender, can shoot the lights out of the basketball. He is awesome, and I think he'd be a great fit in Golden State. And I would even give up a guy like Jonathan Kuminga potentially to go and acquire him because I think what the product that he's putting out on the floor right now, is Jonathan Kuminga ever going to put a better one out there? That's to be seen. I love Cam Johnson, but I don't think it's likely that Golden State makes the deal. And then I decided to throw KD there at the bottom. I know it's not going to happen. It is a pipe dream, but there are outlets out there that are mocking a trade for Durant to come back to Golden State. Listen, he was won Golden State the second 2 of the 4 championships they've won, obviously, and they look like the most dominant team in NBA history when he was out there on the floor. I would love if Golden State could swing a deal for him right now, but they don't seem to be operating like the Phoenix Suns are right now. Phoenix is going out and acquiring win-now talent, going out and acquiring depth like a Nick Richards to shore up their front court. They're still trying to win. Golden State, I don't know if they're going to be trying to win much longer with the current squad that they have in town and the outlook they have on the rest of the season. However, we have more to talk about, though, because this isn't just a Warriors trading for video. We also have who could Golden State trade away because their salary cap, it could use some fixing. We'll talk about that on the back half of today's show. But first, I got to give a major shout-out to today's sponsor, and that is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform with over 10 million active members. And don't worry, because all the information about PrizePicks will be clickable down in the comments and description of today's show. It's daily fantasy made easy. You can win real money watching your favorite sports in real time. And you can get hooked up with a free $50 in your account when you download the PrizePicks app and use our code CLNS when you sign up and place your first $5 entry. You might be asking me, Tyler, how do you place an entry? It's super simple. All you guys got to do is pick a lineup of 2 to 6 player stat projections and just pick more or less on them. And PrizePicks is always trying to give you guys incredible deals like some free squares, Taco Tuesday where they got discounted stat projections, Flex Friday where if you missed your lineup, they'll give you your entry back in promo funds, and also stuff like this for the big game coming up in a couple weeks. Patrick Mahomes, more than half a passing yard. If you pair this up with one other entry on PrizePicks, guess what? You're already halfway to victory. So take this pick. You can take my picks whenever I throw a lineup out there as well. Just make sure you go and do it at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use that promo code CLNS for $50 instantly when you place your first $5 entry. You don't even need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. All again. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Okay, like I teased earlier, who could Golden State trade away in this scenario? There are a bunch of players on this team, like with Steve Kerr playing 12, 13 guys on any given night. It feels like they need to tighten up the rotation a little bit and give them minutes and start pushing players who are performing out there on the basketball court. And I know there's not that many for Golden State right now. But who could Golden State trade away to maybe free up some salary cap, as ESPN's Bobby Marks discussed that in his trade deadline primer? Here are who I think Golden State would be willing to part with at the trade deadline. To be fair, Two of these guys they signed over the offseason, and maybe they wouldn't be willing to part with them on the first of a 3-year deal. That's Buddy Hield and Kyle Anderson. Slow-mo, he hasn't seen much action for Golden State. He has been hurt over the past couple of weeks, and kind of adding insult to the injury list, the long one that Golden State has right now, and especially in the front court with Kuminga and Draymond. Buddy Hield, though, he has left a lot to be desired in his Warriors tenure, especially since that first 15-game stretch of the season where Golden State opened 12-3. Buddy Hield was on fire, was shooting nearly 50% from three. Not ideal. Not ideal, the product that he's putting out there now, which is sometimes sub 30% from distance. GP2, expiring deal, $9.1 million. Moses Moody, remember, you see the stars here? He's got the poison pill provision on his contract, even though he got an extension this season. His outgoing trade value for Golden State would be $5.8 million. Kevon Looney, another expiring deal that could come about for that could free up some salary cap for Golden State, as they are still $6 million above the luxury tax. He still has $8 million on his deal. That would get him below. And if we're thinking about some mock trade ideas that Golden State could go out there and throw right now, let's kick it back to Nikola Vucevic, where he's coming to Golden State along with Torrey Craig for Moses Moody, Kyle Anderson, and Kevon Looney. And a couple second-round picks as well. Obviously, we know that the two sides are mulling over draft capital. This is kind of, if Chicago were to give in, the trade that I would go with. Personally, I would make the deal. Is Chicago going to make this deal? That's left to be seen. But if they do, and if there's more talks about it, we're going to talk about it on February 6th. We'll be live for the NBA trade deadline. So make sure you guys join the channel. Hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so when we do go live on February 6th for a trade deadline extravaganza, you will be notified on your phone. Make sure you subscribe and turn on your noties to never miss a thing. If there's no big trade, Golden State could make a move for salary cap relief. And I mentioned that, kind of teased it a little bit before, how Kevon Looney's $8 million would, if you traded him away, maybe put Golden State below the luxury tax. Bobby Marks of ESPN with a little bit more on this. He says, because they're $6 million over the luxury tax, the Warriors can look to trade the expiring contracts of GP2 or Looney. The Warriors have up to 2 seconds and are allowed to include up to $3.6 million in cash. Trading either player would get them under the luxury tax for only the third time in 10 seasons. And that has been something that Joe Lacob, the front office, they've been trying to do for a couple of years now. Obviously, with Clay, Wiggins, and even dating back to Durant, Golden State was a quote-unquote second-apron team before that was actually a thing, right? They were paying ass out for luxury tax. It was crazy. And now they're inching closer and closer to kind of coming back to the median line and being a normal franchise operating under the normal parameters. Bobby Marks, though, did predict that Golden State would not make any needle-moving deal. They would not find a difference maker. So no Vooch, according to Bobby Marks. And he's a pretty tapped-in guy. He knows a lot about what these teams are doing. He's an NBA insider. He's been working at ESPN. He used to be in a front office in Brooklyn. And, you know, I would take his word as kind of law at this point, especially with the trade deadline. And he's got all the financials ironed out as well. Here's a trade that he proposed that Golden State could have to free up some salary cap. Down the line pick for coming from the Detroit Pistons in 2029, a second-round selection, and it is heavily protected as well. It would only convey if it landed between 56 and 60 in that draft. Who knows? Maybe Detroit's a powerhouse by then, and it ends up being there. But later down the line, it would keep pushing down. It'd be a 2030, 2031. Eventually, Golden State would find a second-round pick in this deal, and they would get rid of Looney. It doesn't really seem like Steve Kerr feels super intent on playing Looney in his lineup right now. And making a trade like this would just free up the opportunity to go out and play Quinton Post. Quinton Post has been awesome in his time in Golden State so far, at least the time that he's been in the rotation. He has been fearless when it comes to taking the outside shot. He's had really good touch around the rim. Steve Kerr said the reason that they pulled him up from the G League into the rotation is because he improved his pick and roll defense. That was the big deficiency on him coming into this season. I want Quinton Post to play more, and I know a lot of Warriors fans do too. So maybe that trading away Looney for a second-round pick way down the line could be one worth making. Now let's wrap things up with the final trade prediction of where Golden State goes by next Thursday. This is crazy. It's coming soon. We're knocking on the door of the trade deadline right now, and Golden State, if they're going to make a move, they're going to have to make it soon. Here are the options, in my opinion, for what Golden State could do right now. They could trade for Vooch. That's the big fish that Golden State is kind of pursuing on this trade deadline. They could make a marginal trade for a center or a shooting guard, somebody who's just a rotational guy, maybe not someone who you feel confident starting the rest of the way this season, and you wouldn't have to give up too many assets. You can make a salary cap relief move like we just talked about with Looney, and that would free up the opportunity for a young up-and-coming rookie like Quentin Post to make an impact even more than he has already. Or they could make no trades at all. They could just stand pat, keep all their assets, all the second-round picks, all the expiring contracts, and just roll into the offseason and continue to wait for that big fish to peek his head out of the water. Let me know what you guys think that Golden State is going to do at the trade deadline. Predict what Mike Dunleavy and Joe Lacob and the Warriors Brain Trust decide at the trade deadline. Hit me up in the comments section. I personally do not see a needle-moving deal, and the only needle-moving deal that I saw was Nikola Vucevic. I don't see a deal unless the Bulls come down with their asking price. I don't think Golden State will offer a first to Chicago. I also don't think many teams around the NBA will offer a first to Chicago. So I do think, that there is a solid chance that Golden State could get this deal done, because why would Chicago want to keep Vooch long term? I know that owner over there is super stubborn and how he wants to continue just filling seats and selling tickets and not worrying about a rebuild. He doesn't want to focus on a rebuild in Chicago, so I understand that. However, I do think that Golden State would be smart to not mortgage any assets here and wait for an even better player, because Vooch isn't winning you a championship this season. Spoiler alert, you're not going to add Vucevic and win a championship in 25. So let's wait for a bigger player to come out and be a real difference maker, somebody that could take Golden State over the top, somebody that can maybe be the alpha scorer next to Stephen Curry and let him go back to the secondary spot that he kind of was when Durant was in town. According to ESPN, that's what they're going to do. Golden State will be waiting for the true difference maker to come and arise. This comes from Brian Windhorst and Tim Bontemps in the Hoop Collective, and they're going to wait until the summer. They're going to the names out there available at this trade deadline are just not good enough. Jimmy Butler, we've gone down that road. They're not going to do it. Brandon Ingram, they're probably not going to do it. Zach LaVine, not going to do it. Want to know why? Because none of those guys make you a championship contender right now. And what did Mike Dunleavy say? You don't want to put yourself in a position where you make a trade to only be above average. I think Golden State is smart in that, even though I've pushed back on it for a couple months now. I just want this team to be good, and I want this season to be awesome. It just hasn't been awesome, and I think they're coming to terms with that. If you think I'm a hater, though, hit me up on Twitter. We'll talk about it more. I'm trying to build a Warriors community on Twitter. Hit me up at Smitty at CS down below. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Like I said, we'll be live for the trade deadline on February 6th. So lock us in as your #1 source for Warriors news and rumors all season long, and even into the offseason when we hope Golden State gets that difference maker. Hit that sub button. We'll see you in the next one. Let's go Dubs.